Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Justin Davis from Runcam, and check this out. This is something new today from Runcam. If you don't know about Runcam yet, welcome to this video because Runcam really does make some awesome FPV cams and little action cams. This is the Runcam 2. I usually use these over actually putting a GoPro on my quads because they're quite a bit lighter than the GoPro. And they have nice vivid color. So Runcam Swift 2 just came out. I believe the release date is actually today. It's January 9th. So we'll go ahead and run through some of the great features of the new Runcam Swift 2. With the Swift last year, 2016, the Swift was one of the favorites, and I do have it here. But it did take a little bit of extra setup for the brightness contrast for a lot of us flying in the Pacific Northwest. It's a little darker out here, so we have to usually play around with the brightness contrast settings a little bit and sometimes change the backlight settings. So they made some changes with the Runcam Swift 2. Some of the most obvious changes are the lens on this one. So the lens has been shortened a bit by them. So I can show you that here. This old Runcam lens is just a little bit longer, and they shortened that up because what this will happen, what this will do is this will actually make it a little more durable in the crashes and make it a little more compact for some of those smaller builds. Now this camera is, a very great competitor to the HS1177, and it's sporting some new features. So right away, when I opened up the box, I was happy to see all these new connections on the back. I have an Eagle sitting here. If you look at the back of the Eagle versus the Swift 2, you notice the Swift 2 has quite a few more connections on here. We have that standard ground and OSD connection over here to the far right, but we also have a mic port now, so we can get sound off of the Runcam Swift 2 if we want, which is kind of a nice option. Some of you guys like to hear that motor noise when you power up. And we also have inboard built-in OSD on this one, so you can add your pilot name and you can move the OSD text around on the screen, which is super cool. And we're sporting a 2.5 millimeter lens on this one, and this Eagle is quite a bit larger, pretty wide angle, but this one is quite a bit wider. The Swift 2 is quite a bit wider angle than the original Swift, so you're going to get a better field of view out of the front of this Swift 2. So it's going to give you better vision, better peripheral vision, left and right, which is great for FPV. You want to see those ghost branches coming at you. So that's pretty important. But they also give you a variety of stuff here along with your kit. You get this little box here, and it shows you a few things on the side here, right on the side of just the general specs. Your 2.5 millimeter lens, your sensor is IR blocked, which actually does great during the day. It actually makes a brighter and richer image on your camera, so that's actually pretty sweet. Also powering from 5 to 36 volts, and that's a little higher voltage range, and down to 5 is kind of nice. You can't run this on like a 1S battery because it never reaches 5 volts, so it'll just look black. And some guys that have tried that in the past thought they had a bad camera. No, it's just it needs 5 volts or more. So when you get close to 5 volts, sometimes these won't run correctly. So you can power this on your 12 volt if you're running straight from your flight controller. Now we also have another label on here, audio, and we have VBAT on there as well now. So quite a bit more options on this one. 5 volt ground, video, audio, and VBAT there. So the other stuff that comes along with your box, included with your Runcam Swift 2, is your OSD menu access, a little joystick on this, and you can press it and you can change directions, right, left, up, and down. And this plugs in on this very far right hand plug over here. It says ground and OSD. Go ahead and plug that in. Make sure you get your polarity correct on there. The pins are facing up. Now, one of the nice things about this camera too is that it does have the connectors for your wires on the very top of the camera, and that's important because when you're doing a build, a lot of us in the past were kind of annoyed with these connectors on the bottom, because when you tilt your camera up, the wires would drag on the bottom of the frame or touch electronic components, and sometimes I had quads actually short out because wires were rubbing on the frame down here. So that's a thing of the past now, which is kind of nice. Now, I always use this flatter side instead of using this back piece there that comes along on it. I usually take this one off because I don't need these extra pieces sticking out here. I'm just going to use these two side pieces when I put it on my frame. You also do get an extra frame. This is a plastic frame, by the way. This one is not a metal frame. So this might even be maybe a little bit lighter, a little less durable, but they do give you two frames, which is kind of sweet. And you get this awesome silicone wire. If you guys want to give me something for Christmas, like a friend of mine said, we would both love to have some of this silicone wire. This is great stuff for builds, mainly because when you're soldering with it, if you touch the soldering iron to it, it doesn't start burning and smoldering and melting the wire on here. So this silicone wire is super sweet. I'd love to have a bunch of that. You also have this other connector, and that goes back on the left-hand side of the camera right here. Plugs in, pins up. And we have an extra wire here as well. And this wire can come off the back of the OSD. And this will make it a little easier to access your OSD. If you had mounted this already in your quad and you needed to access it a little bit easier, you can tuck this wire up in behind here, and then you can pull it out when you need to, and you can access it with your OSD cable here. So if you wanted to mount that somewhere and have it ready to access on the external part of the frame, that's actually a pretty nice option, which this cable didn't come with the older Swift. This is kind of cool. And you have this other mount here. This one's for a hard mount. If you wanted to mount it, you can also hang it like this, or you can mount it from the surface mount on the bottom. Then you get a pack of screws and one Allen wrench in here. So let's go ahead and let's hook this up to a 7-inch monitor, and let's check out the OSD on here. Okay, so I have everything plugged in to show you guys here, and right away we see that new OSD on here. We've got voltage, camera name or pilot name here, and we have the time that the battery's been plugged into the quad. Also, go ahead and plug in your OSD switch, your little joystick here, and it also has that push button in the middle, so I can access the menus by going in and just hitting this button here. First thing I see is cam title. If you turn that on, watch what happens. I'll exit this menu, and we get two names there. It says Runcam twice. If you wanted to add another name on your OSD, like say I wanted to add Drone Camps RC up at the very top here, I could do that, and then have Justin Davis down here. But I'm just going to turn that off. I don't want more stuff on my screen because less is better for me when I'm flying. So I'll have all that stuff down at the bottom, or I can move it up to the top. I'll go back in the menu here, and we can play around with the exposure. You can change the shutter from 160 to auto, and depending on what your daylight looks like, what your average daylight looks like, you can change this around. And you can also play around with the brightness. I'm going to leave mine on auto because that's probably the best option for me. And you can go in here and you can change the brightness up and down. AGC, you can change to low, middle,
activity alarm,
low, middle, and high. DWDR is pretty nice. You can go in here and turn that off. I usually leave it on so it helps me have a little brighter image. Flying in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of times we do need that. Now I can go ahead and return to the main menu. Auto white balance, I'm going to leave that on. You have two versions of auto white balance on here, 1 and 2, and then you can go to set it, manual, and I'll just leave it on auto white balance 1. Now backlight, you can turn that on and off. I usually going to leave it off. Day and night, we can change that as well to black and white. If you're flying at night, that kind of helps, but I'm going to leave that set to auto. And this camera, by the way, with that IR block, should give you a really nice image during the daytime. It's going to be a little bit better image than the older Swift. Now we have image adjustment. If your camera needs to be modified, you can go in there and you can change your font color. That's kind of cool. That's, I believe, a new option. You can change your contrast, your sharpness. All this stuff is in here. Now we can go negative image if we want to get really crazy. And let's go back out of here. Now we can go down to DPC. Okay. And now that should be properly calibrated. Now we can go down and change the English language if we want to something else, or we can reset to the factory defaults. So now I'll show you how to move around your telemetry on the screen here. So if I want to move the middle, I'm just going to press and hold down for 1 to 2 seconds, and it's going to activate that. So now I can move this all the way up to the top if I want, and press that button again in the very center, hold it down, it'll go back to white, and now it's set there. If I want to do this voltage, I can press over to the left there and hold it, and now I can move the voltage up to the top, and then press it again there. And now if I want to move the time, I can hold it to the right, and it'll activate that one, and I can move it to wherever I want, and push the button again. And now I have all my telemetry at the top, so that's kind of nice. Now I'll show you how to set your title up here. If you want to access that, you can just press up and hold for a second, and it'll put you into this menu. Now you can go ahead and you can navigate through the letters here, and I'm going to change mine to say Justin, so I'm good on that letter. Now I can go, let's see, I might make that a lowercase u. Press and hold that for a second, it'll switch over to the next one. S-T. This is pretty easy to do. Lowercase n, and I'll just put Justin there. And now I'll go ahead and I'll set the rest of the... So there's a little blank space right there. If you go to the left of 1, it'll put you on the blank space, and you can press that and just skip to the very end all the way back to the... Now once you're done, now you can also change this on or off. You can change it to off. I'm going to leave it on. My timer, I'm going to leave on. Voltage, I'm going to leave on. Baseline is off. We don't need that. Or you can go back to default. So I'm going to go ahead and exit now. And now I see my pilot name at the very top of the screen. That's pretty cool. Pretty easy to change. So let's go ahead and show you some flight footage. And I'll show you how different the Swift 2 looks. All right, we're at the field, and we're going to fly this. We're going to find out what the deal is with the Swift 2. Is it worth it? Does it perform any better? And right away, just seeing the 2 pieces of video here on the screen, I didn't do any kind of manipulation or color. I didn't add any color to either of these videos, and I left them, both the cameras, on stock settings. So you're looking at it, how it comes out of the box. Mine was already focused, which was great. And the way I mounted it on my quad, I didn't have to mess with the lens at all to screw it onto the quad. So I used left and right mount screws and just screwed it right to the frame. But definitely right away I can see there's much better color definition with the Swift 2 versus the original Swift. And the original Swift seems to be more blown out. If you look at the clouds up top, when I go a little bit higher with this Swift 2, you can see way more definition and true to life color in the clouds. And the auto white balance doesn't seem to do a very good job here on the Swift because it has a kind of an overtone of blues in the camera. And the Swift 2 is definitely more true to life color. And overlay, the OSD is working really nice. So I'll probably move that back down to the bottom so I can see it a little better when I'm flying, because it was kind of hard for me to see that right hand, that top position where my timer's at. But both of them are acceptable. The Swift is actually a little bit lighter than the Swift 2. The Swift 2 is actually, I think, a couple grams heavier, but I don't think that's going to make a big difference, especially since we have some onboard OSD here. Really, really nice. I do need to change my voltage monitor from reading just that single cell to reading the actual full voltage. It looks like it's only reading cell. I might be wrong. So I'm just kind of cruising around in the field, checking out the new cam. And I really like it so far, especially since I can go into the OSD and change around everything really easily. I don't have to add on any extra OSD. The definition on this is really nice. Look at the grass. It's awesome. Oh, flipped into acro there. I'm gonna play around a little bit, but I like the Swifts too so far, and I would definitely suggest it if you want to try it on your quad. I think you're gonna love it. I'm gonna put it on all my new quads this year. So Runcam, I appreciate you sending me one of these. Thank you. This has been a lot of fun, and it's a super cool camera. So check out the Swift 2, you guys. You can check it out in the link below on runcam.com, or you can check it out from my friends over at GearBest. They'll have them as well. I'm Justin Davis, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks again for watching. Please do subscribe.